Hello and welcome to Dominion 6 Rise of the Podcaster, your premiere, the first and only Dominion 6 podcast for however long that bit lasts. I am joined today by only Sauron and Rob CA, my co hosts, and we've been chilling, probably talking about stuff that we should have saved for the cast. So, why don't, Sauron, you tell our listeners what you've been up to lately?
Yes, it is me, Sauron. Only fan Sauron, apparently. Outside of getting corrected in questions and strategy about mechanics that I don't actually understand, I've been great. Just helping people with tech at points or giving away my tech for free. Uh, but it's okay. No one actually reads it besides the people I give it to.
Doesn't matter if you're giving away tech if you don't join games.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of these days I'll record. We'll see.
Uh, Rousey, what have you been playing? Is it Dominions or is it other games?
No, I don't play Dominions anymore. Sorry, I
I'm
just
gonna
don't.
main Joman now.
Was it the fact that they accidentally
Well,
slash on purpose nerf Joman into the absolute garbage can that did it
well,
for
they
you?
didn't do it on purpose. I'm sure they just made changes to the game, didn't buff certain nations, and now those nations are worse.
Yeah, your cavalry is fixed now. Maybe you can
Oh
actually
yeah,
expand
they
it.
lost 7 resources. They were recruitment point capped before, and now they're recruitment point capped. So
Bunga bunga. I guess you'll have to take that Jade Pretender Order build or whatever the fuck. Nah,
yeah,
let's. Who's
but when you do that, you just die in the early.
what am I kidding? You're just gonna take the Earth Snake again. It's back to fucking
I think you are
the
supposed to
Snake?
horde
take
days.
the tiger, or you might still have to take the earth snake and then just
Just
hate
take the
yourself.
Earth.
So,
Yeah, take the
but
Earth
that's
Snake.
generally been my experience when playing Joman. So.
All right. Yeah, I've. Uh,
Anyway, I
anyway,
have been playing other games. I'll probably get back into Dominion 6 at some point when I'm a little bit less busy.
nice. Yeah, I've been trying to close out the games I'm in, and then maybe join other games. Had a Reddit game where people kind of went to sleep for the mid game, but now that I'm one throne away from victory, they've woken up, so I have to fight them. And then I had the advanced game is winding down, and it's we're gonna think Hezekiah is gonna take that one. We're gonna give it to Hezekiah for winning that one. Um, but yeah, other than that, I've been being goblin on the forums. I've been posting pictures of animals everywhere, that kind of thing.
Yes, if any of you have never been on Discord, I want you to understand that HP's largest contribution to the Dominion's Discord scene is just posting pictures of small fuzzy animals.
Listen, that is not the only place he contributes these animals. They're in my private servers every day, and I appreciate
It's
it.
better than all the
That is
other
true.
garbage in
When
that
he was
server.
pinging
Let me
us
tell
to
you that
get
much.
when he was pinging us to get people gathered up for the podcast, you know what he included?
Yeah, a blurry picture of a raccoon.
There's a reason he used a bunch of weird Fennec and other pictures on his stats video or whatever it was back in
That's great.
Dominions 5. It's because he has 1,000 of those in his pictures folder, probably.
I don't have a pictures folder.
He just
I,
goes
No,
to
you just
Twitter.
download them directly
yeah,
from the
I just
internet.
beat my Twitter into mainly showing me animal pictures, and I'll keep posting them until Elon Musk finally kills that stupid fucking website.
Ah, yes, we're talking about Elon on the Dominions
Oh
podcast.
yeah, Elon.
So what did you want to talk about Dominions related?
I think we wanted quote unquote question mark wanted to talk about diplomacy. That's what we got on the roster here, but I don't know if how much we actually want to talk
Diplomacy.
about it.
All right, you want me to start it then?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so normally diplomacy is a very open-ended thing, and it's going to vary based on whatever community or small group you're playing in. However, we have noticed recently, at least I have, that some of the diplomacy has been a little more scummy than usual, where people now, in their first war, are ganging up on neighbors, but instead of it being like, oh, it's a 2x. Two people are ganging up. It's 3 or 4 players who are all attacking one player, which is super cringe and lame. And it's like, what is this? And it's like, maybe that guy's just unlucky in this game. And it's like, because we're on immersion, there's multiple threads we can observe because we're mentors, and it's happening in multiple games across the different players where, you know, they're just fighting 3 people and it's their first war. They're not big. And, you know, the guy next to whoever is getting 3v1, who is double their size, is just sitting there doing nothing. And it's like, yes, you guys are 3xing that guy, but the guy above him has twice his land. Like, absolute lunacy.
As people have lost tech, as people have lost their grip on, like, how to, like, evaluate game states in between games, which, you know, we should have expected. They have reverted to the very sort of toxic mid-Dom 5 diplomatic style of, well, I want my first war, let's find someone who's weak or whatever, and my first war is just going to be like a 3 or 4v1 where we all eat everybody's land. Where we not eat everybody's land, sorry. Where 3 or 4 people come in and divide up another player and just put them out of the game. And then we just go on from there. And it's pretty toxic, and I think also kind of indicative of poor play, in my opinion. Because if you actually think about what you're doing, if you're coalitioning your first war, it's very safe, admittedly, because generally in the early game you would have to be very front loaded on your build in order to survive a 3 or 4v1. So it's generally very safe, especially against like a weaker player, a player who hasn't expanded or overinvests into forts or whatever. I've also seen a lot of people just like running a bunch of indie trash into someone who is invested in forts. But if you actually look at it, okay, in a 3 or 4v1 like that, you're only getting a few provinces out of that war that you're knocking someone out of the game with. And it's not guaranteed that you're going to get the best deal out of it. After it's done, you're still in the same, you're in a similar situation. You're only ahead of your neighbors if they weren't participating in it, and you're guaranteed to be neighboring people who were participating in it. And the big thing for me that makes this sort of cycle toxic is that if someone is 3 or 4v1ing a person, they're typically out of position, and you can typically, as their neighbor, take a lot more land if you attack somebody who is 3v1ing someone else than you can if you join the 3v1. But people don't have a lot of confidence in their armies and builds, and they would rather just take the easy 3 or 4 provinces than roll the dice to potentially become a bigger power. And so, yeah. I've been the beneficiary of that because I have attacked into those 3v1s, but I still don't think it's a great game state to be in. I think it results in a very sort of boring, predictable game until you get to the late game, and just kind of toxic.
At some point, if it turns into a stalemate between coalitions, at some point it has to break, right?
Right.
And usually that happens later in the game. If I might add, I like how you said it's a result of people not being able to like analyze game state, because a lot of the experienced players from Dominions 5, right, they'll take a build, they'll be like, yeah, I can 1v1 somebody early with this build. And I think a lot of people don't know if they can 1v1 their neighbors early with whatever build they take right now, right? Yep. So then strategically, even if it doesn't always like look great, if you're like, oh, I'll do this, it's safe, and I'll get something, right? Like that becomes a more attractive option.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of how to articulate this.
Here's a hint.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, here's a hint though. If your opponent got his entire army on the other side, if one of your neighbors has his entire army on the opposite side of their kingdom from you, in order to 3v1 someone and they're not even taking fights, you can 1v1 them.
Yeah,
whatever you have.
If somebody, well, Like, let's think. If somebody is 3 or 4v1ing somebody and they put down forts and then they move their army to go fight somebody else,
Yeah.
they've just made infrastructure for you and their army is fighting someone else.
Right, yeah, and you can
And a
just
lot
go
of the
in and loot
times,
it.
if it's a real dog pile, it's hard to get the army back because you have to like negotiate and walk around the other people who are also dogpiling.
Right.
Yeah,
So it can be pretty annoying.
it's generally like not the best play. Like there's obviously points when vulturing can be optimal or good for you, but
Don't get me
there's
started on
also
vulturing. I don't like vulturing.
yeah. I mean, there's nuance to it, obviously, but I mean, it's another reason why like scouts are so important. Like catching someone that you neighbor who is, all of their stuff is literally dog or doom stacked on one of their border, and then you're on the other side of their border, and there's nothing there. Like, yeah, you should probably run into them because how are they going to defend these provinces? And a lot of people get cold feet or whatever, or they're like, "Oh, but I have a nap," or "I've already decided to nap," and it's like, well, you've already kind of put yourself in the hole, and that's why you should leave
Yeah.
your options open. And you should be building scouts so you get a vague idea of where you want to go. Like when this happens is like maybe like turn 7 to 8, you identify like, okay, these are my neighbors, like I'm starting to see them, and you start to plan ahead like which are the possible targets I'm going to go for, and then when they end up talking to you at some point, you're like, hey, let's hold off on the nap or whatever. If your game has binding naps, which I don't recommend playing with, but some people
I
are
don't
dead
see
set
why
on.
anybody would ever turn that option on.
Well,
To be
it's
honest,
been on.
because
Well, if you
and
wanna
I
grief
don't say
people-
that to be cruel or anything. I just think if you look at how the mechanic is executed, there are a lot of ways to either intentionally or unintentionally even grief somebody by signing a nap that's binding. Like, take for example the Wild Hunt, right?
They
That you
patched it. They just
pass
patched
that,
it.
and you have. Did they fix that?
They just fixed it. Yeah, in
They
the
just
most
fixed it.
recent.
Okay, I was going to say because like
Yeah,
some of the spells are very easy to grief, and then once they bounce, they're gone. It's like, did they
yeah.
fix the pirate one too while they were at it?
I do not
I
know.
they might
Because
have
that one
fixed.
also goes away when they die.
I think they've.
And
I think they fixed the pirate run and Wild Hunt. I could be incorrect. Obviously, in what they're saying they fixed it, and that it actually being fixed requires you to check in game. Just like I had to report that Zobalba on launch was broken in 3 separate patches, and in every patch they said we fixed this, and then I went in game and they didn't fix it. They just broke it further. So
I think
it's
maybe this doesn't have to do with binding naps, but I think the whole meta of nap all your neighbors is also based on that lack of confidence and lack of game knowledge. Because, like, if you are granted, if you're in a heavy Dipplo game, it's like, oh, you nap all your neighbors because if you're the one guy they haven't napped, then they'll attack you, and that's sort of a toxic situation too. But like, a lot of times it's like, oh god, this guy might be scary. I don't know what he has. Better nap him. But it's that's generally based off of like the uncertainty that you don't know how good your neighbor's armies are necessarily, and some of that's organic. Like you clearly don't have everyone's blessed scouted from the outset of the game, but some of that is just at this early stage. People don't know which nations are good, like which things they should be scared of logically, and which things they should
yeah,
just
a
brush
lot of the
off.
balance really changed.
Yeah. Um, so there's that.
yeah, there's nuance to it, and how you play your game is always going to be up to you as a player. We're not going to police how you play your games. Obviously, we have no control. But
the game cop, I will police all the games.
there should be. I just wish people had a little more like almost like a warrior's mentality of like
The
a little
gamers
more
code.
honor with it
Well,
instead of being absolute.
even
rodents.
outside of honor, just to point out, like you can slowly learn how to play this game by coalitioning people every game and like getting to the mid and late game and figuring stuff out there. And you'll learn a little slowly, I think, but you'll learn it. But if you really want to pick up the game quickly, play aggressively, because you'll figure out really fast what works and what doesn't work.
Right, yeah.
And then
Yeah, because you'll just die.
if you win, great, you're in the mid game, you have an advantage, you can figure out how to snowball. And if you you lose,
You get to play
you
another
can go
game.
next, and you can play better. So
Right.
it's true in not a lot of
Granted,
strategy games. It's true in a lot of
Yep.
strategy games, not just Dominions, but it is also true in Dominions.
yeah, I
Play
mean,
aggressively, and you can learn quicker.
there is like a concept of like just because one strategy worked in one game or one experience doesn't mean it'll work in another. Like
Right. That's
certain,
more true in Dominions, I think, as well.
yeah, like if you attack someone in your first war, and this was a large part of our, I think it was our problem as a group, but I could be wrong. With so like back in the day, Psy and Lucid used to be very big voices. Psy is less active nowadays, and Lucid is still active, but they used to say stuff like, your first war, if it's not done cleanly, it is not optimal, and you're going to be behind. But as you play with better players, this is absolutely not true, and you shouldn't necessarily walk over every first war target, and you losing losses or exchanging with your opponent is not a death sentence. Like, if anything, you should be trading. If your first war is like always a snowball, like it's going to give you a warped perception of the game. So,
Like that should be the goal of a first war, because the more you invest, the slower you go. And this is a lot of games are snowbally, and Dominions is really snowbally.
yes.
But
But
like,
it shouldn't be an
you shouldn't be
expectation.
afraid to invest into a first
Yeah.
war, I think.
So
Yeah, people are very greedy in the
And
community.
yeah, in fact, not investing all you have into a first war is one of the leading causes to not winning it as hard as you should, right? Because if I'm like being conservative and only investing half of my stuff, and the other person is defending and all of their stuff is right there, how am I going to make progress? So it's
Yeah, I mean,
well,
there's obviously nuance
this
and
this
stuff.
this goes back to Dipplo. If you are diplomatic, if you are very diplomatic, and you are agile, if you like talking to people a lot, which I don't, but maybe you do, then investing less in your first war can be more optimal, because you just push with raiding forces, see how much you can take, and then when you hit resistance, at that point, start talking to people and deploying and being like, well, okay, clearly you're not going to let me walk onto your capital and flop. And you've allocated, so you need some of your territory back, but I've taken some of it, so you want out of this war, so let's make a deal somewhere in between. Um, so that's one way.
Granted,
If you're more diplomatic,
I don't know how
you
well
can.
that
well,
works.
wait,
To be
wait, wait.
honest,
There's one part you need to include. So, as everyone knows, Dominions is a small community, and one thing that comes with small community is people who do not always have the best social skills. So sometimes when you attack people, they will not talk to you, and they will not adapt to their situation, even though it might be in their benefit, and they will continue to fight you. This can happen, and it obviously will depend on the person you're playing with. Or
I have had many wars where no exchange of message has ever been done between the two players, including myself.
I
So
mean, so have
yeah,
I, but that's
sometimes it happens.
it's
I
a
won't
lore
say
game. You
many,
play the
but
game.
it definitely does happen. Where even sometimes when you'll like reach out, you won't hear anything for like 3 days, and then they'll say, "Nah, we'll keep fighting." So
It's like, all right,
that's
yeah, we
not
keep
exactly
fighting.
like the high level diplomatic
yeah.
scene either.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think keeping your like an open mind is generally a good thing. Like you don't have to kill someone outright or take all their stuff. If you get some advantage, like it could still be in your benefit. But some people are very like
all
scorch
right.
the earth with the game.
So I do want to go on this little tangent, because I think it needs to be said. So a lot of the like best players at Diplo, the way they'll do it is, I call it the narrative style, is where they'll try to say like, they'll try to convince other players of their view of the game state, and then those players will essentially act in their benefit because they agree with the Diplo players' view of the game state. And that is probably the quote unquote best way of Diplo for the for people who are actually very good at Diplo.
I don't know
But
if that's totally
I want
true.
to I want to put it out there, because you will see a lot of Diplo players lose in the last game. In 5, a lot of Lucid's wins were because of things like that. Like he said, "Oh, this is in your interest to do this," and then the player agrees, and then they do it, and then it benefits both of them, but it benefits the Diplo player more. But for most
I mean,
people,
of course, his perspective is the right one. He's videotaping it. You can watch it.
Yeah, he
But-
never posts his losses.
but for
Well,
mo-
he does.
He does
I
from
ain't
time to
shit.
He
time.
I
does
don't-
sometimes. Sometimes.
I'm guilty of that. I've probably posted more wins than losses, but the reason why I bring that up is because I think people see that work for the top Dipplo players, and they try to ape that style when they're not very good and not very convincing or charismatic, and it really results in a lot of like hurt feelings and people getting mad at each other. Whereas I think if you're not like a top Dipplo player, which I am definitely not, then you shouldn't go around expecting other people to take your view of the game state. Like, I see all the time people getting mad because they'll have a view of the game state and they'll try to convince other players of it, and the other player will just believe something totally different about the game state. So I think
Yeah,
if
I've
you
seen
are
that as well.
if you
People
are
try and force it a lot, I think.
yeah, and it just turns out people get mad at each other. And I think if you're not one of the top Dipplo players, most convincing, charismatic people, you need to take more of an idea of just asking people what they want out of a war, or what kind of peace they'd be willing to take. So like, instead of being like, oh, you shouldn't focus on me, you should focus on this guy, which clearly the other player doesn't agree with you, or else they'd be doing it. Like, you should just be like, all right, well, what do you actually want out of this war? What do you actually expect to gain? What is your actual like objective? What peace deal would you be willing to take? And it's useful for two reasons. The first one is, on the enemy side, it puts them in a mindset of thinking about what peace deal would I want to take. And a lot of times it's a lot better than you would expect to get. Like, if they actually think, okay, well, what do I want? And maybe it's like, I only want 3 provinces, and you can get out of a 2v1 that way. And then on the other end, it's very useful because if you ask someone, like, well, hey, what peace deal are you willing to take? And they come out and they are like, they either don't respond or they say like, no, then that tells you to not waste your effort and to go somewhere else, or if they have a totally unreasonable explanation, instead of getting mad that they have an unreasonable explanation, just be like, all right, well, this player I shouldn't be talking to, so I'll just talk to other players instead.
That's true. And more information is usually a good thing. And also,
What is
the
that
thing where
top-down selling is what you're talking about? Isn't that basically what it is? Where you build up to the negotiation or whatever, instead of putting like all your cards on the... I probably
you're
absolutely
asking
right.
questions of the other person. You're kind of putting the ball in their court. I don't know how you want to phrase that. But
I'm absolutely butchering the concept, but I think that's what the mindset is. So I apologize if that's absolutely incorrect. It's not my intention.
I would
not all
say
of the
it's just-
Dominions players who post videos on YouTube can be like, I don't know, some type of industry expert where they're marketing something to people all the time on PowerPoints.
How many times on this podcast are we gonna throw shade at Perun? He hasn't even played Dominion 6, so why are we still doing
He might have played it, but he certainly has not made a video about it.
Listen, all things considered, he deserves the shade. Fuck his shitty PowerPoints.
I mean, at least they're well-researched PowerPoints,
once again,
presumably.
Crystallized strategy is strategy.
Vladimir, we got the dirt on this guy. Just give us the potato money. Give us the potato money you're stealing from Ukraine. Give us some of those looted dishwashers. We'll do the fucking we'll do the dirty work. We'll stab this guy in the back for you.
What are you talking? Okay, I see.
Just give us some of that loot, some of that sweet Ukraine loot, and we'll get rid of Perrin for you. We'll take care of that problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
A bit.
HP himself will travel to presumably Australia.
No, I'm just gonna make a video making fun of his.
Oh, just make a
about?
rep hit piece against them.
Sorry, Australia's
Ruin the reputation. Look at this guy; he's making PowerPoints on the internet, and then it'll all come crashing down.
Yeah, the house of cards will come crashing down. You'll win.
You know,
that
I
way.
think the PowerPoints are actually a selling point. Not even joking.
I
No.
mean,
Fuck you.
Like, there are people who are like watching the video for that format.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a
except no one
reason.
actually reads the slides, or else they would know crystallized strategies.
There's a reason why
Strategy
PowerPoint is
crystallizes strategy.
included in Microsoft Word.
There
People
are
like
better
it.
ways to phrase that. For example, observe your opponent's strategy and then come up with your own.
That
All
is
right,
not what he
all
wrote.
right.
He
Let's
said
end.
strategy crystallizes
How
strategy.
about let's
That's
end
pretty
this
much what he meant.
segment?
Okay, I did have a question for the two of you. I was curious if you thought that the change in style of map that we've largely seen, where a lot more people are using the in-game generator for their games, if you think that's had an impact on how people are playing, especially in the early game.
I think it was just on launch because the tools weren't out. I think there's a group that's playing with the in-game map, but it's still kind of dog shit.
Is it mostly map nuke now?
I've
I
seen a
think
lot of
the
map
last time I
nuke.
played, I saw. I don't think I played
Yeah,
anything
there
but
was
a
a lot
sub game.
more map nuke in the last few months.
I
They took out the default fort thing.
Obviously.
yeah, I I definitely think that the coalitioning thing that I'm talking about is way more prevalent on Map Nuke than the default map. I think the default map actually has more interesting terrain configurations with the gigantic caveat that it's very possible on the default map for one or more players to just be either screwed or yoked by the map. So it's
Yes, I
like,
was going to bring that up.
yeah, so it's like a lot of times it's more interesting, and your diplomacy and who you fight is more dictated by terrain on the default map, because it's like what is a good front to attack on, whereas map nuke you generally have four fronts that are good to attack on and then four fronts that are kind of poop to attack on. There's sometimes people do it, but
Yeah, people inexplicably mess up the settings in some weird way on the default generator all the time as well.
yeah, but the issue is on the default. There's like, well, I guess I got a three province cave that's adjacent to a peninsula that's already got people on it, and so I have one direction to go. And if I don't fucking win this war right here, I just lose out of the game. Like, you know, so it's like
Yeah,
it's a
One
big trade
Direction.
off.
You say I didn't realize you were a fan. Anyway,
God damn
is there a cave layer on the map nuke setup that you've seen? Because
Yeah,
like I said,
yeah,
I haven't
there
really
is.
played that one much. Interesting.
There
I
is.
was
It's
also
more.
wondering how you felt about, just in general, both of you, how you felt about cave
it.
layers.
Love
I
it.
always,
Love the cave layer.
it's,
I think it's a
I'm a
good
little
addition.
worried about having like you know how you have like the underwater Thunderdome.
Yeah.
I feel
Um.
like sometimes you have that with the cave layer, and
So
it's
I just from playing, unless you
mm,
have a bunch of cave nations in your game, I think honestly the default scattered caves is probably the way to go. As goofy as it is,
I
because
don't know if I like that just because of how the layout tends to look.
well, sure, but generally, when you have a concentrated cave layer, like I've noticed in a donut or a single cave, generally it's too many provinces, and you're right about the underwater Thunderdome. It's like whichever cave nation takes it is going to win. I've been the beneficiary of that in the Reddit game, so I'm not like, I'm not salty about it. It's something I've probably benefited from, and just from that benefit, I would say in the future, don't do that. I think with the scattered, you run the risk of the cave nation having a pretty terrible start, but in general, it's less unfair and it's a lot more strategically interesting because you have these caves. You're incentivizing ground nations to go underground to take caves in their territory and to fight over caves, and you're also kind of incentivizing the cave nation, the underground nation, to look around the map and be like, okay, where else can I dive underground and get easier fights? um,
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
My
it like.
only worry would be that you don't have proper cap circle setups for cave
Yeah,
nations in
that's
that
it,
kind
it
of map
is
group.
it is a risk. This is going to sound bad, but I've reached the point where, like, unless you have like a carefully crafted map by like a good player who generates it, like, you're gonna end up with something scuffed on your map anyway. So I'd rather just have the more interesting map and accept that certain things are gonna be scuffed. Sometimes you're gonna need a restart to get a new map. whatever.
I mean,
Like,
you should restart in general if, like, on turn
If somebody
2,
is
someone's
really
cap
screwed,
circle.
right.
Yeah, if
yeah,
you have
oh,
a
I have a
unique
one province
indie,
cap circle. Yeah, that guy
Yeah,
needs a
you got
read.
like 3 provinces and like one's a throne and one's like 500 Cynocephalians. Like, yeah,
Listen,
okay, restart that.
I've seen 2 province cap circles where one is a
yeah,
throne.
like if you
It's
get a
pretty.
unique indie in your cap circle, you generally should reroll anyways,
Right.
because that's not fair for anyone. It's the equivalent of, like, you're never going to take that till way later.
I
So,
mean,
and my opinion on caves is I think they're generally like a positive for the game because they enable more parts of the indies that were kind of undiscovered before, and they're more accessible in my opinion than
oh,
underwater. Because
vastly.
so I think they're just better than underwater in
The
every sense.
the people who say like caves are the new underwater, and I'm not accusing anyone specific here, but like it's just wrong. Like cave nations have a definite advantage in caves, but like the difference is literally night and day because underwater you have
Pretty
to have this
obvious.
certain trait to even send things there, whereas in
Yeah,
caves
it's
it's
like
like
The
in
only
caves, if you don't have the trait, you have a debuff when you're fighting in the cave, and you
right.
can. I don't know if you can
the
fix it with
only thing
magic, but I think you can fix
problematic
it with magic. And then underwater is you can't right click the province if you don't have the trait.
Yeah.
the only
And
thing
then
problematic
once you get
about
there, there's a
it that
debuff.
you're missing is earthquake is probably very disgusting in caves. That's
Yeah.
the only real negative I can see about
I
like
I'm
someone
assuming certain
sitting.
spells can't be cast, like certain air spells,
Yeah, gifts from heaven
especially.
cannot be cast in
I
caves.
don't think you can cast storm,
Though
right?
honestly, there really should be just a gifts from the roof, where you just bring down,
You just drag some
Stalactites.
yeah,
stalactites
just
down.
just
Yeah.
spike them down on people. Gifts from the ceiling.
That would
yeah,
be.
yeah. See, in the
Has
caves,
anybody ever
in the
actually seen this cave ceiling?
in the caves, it would bring down stalagmites, and then you could cast it in the bars, and it would
Stalactites.
bring down chandeliers. So that would be great, right? Like you have it castable in caves and all those little assassination arenas.
Oh,
It
that is
just
pretty funny.
brings down shit from the ceiling. But
One thing I've noticed is that you can't issue multi-province movements outside of a cave, regardless of map move, because going through the cave entrance takes a turn.
um,
No, you can.
you
No, you can't.
can. It just it costs, and you
No, you
have to.
can't.
Yeah, you can. I've done it.
You can't click it, right? You can only click on the cave province. You can't physically click a unit from the cave layer to the open
Oh,
ground layer into
yeah.
a different
Okay. Yeah,
province
yeah.
because
You have
when you
to.
change layers, it deselects the unit.
Yeah, you have to. Actually, I
I'm pretty
think
sure
no, no,
it's
no. I
impossible.
think I think you can do it. It's just weird. I think there's a method to it. I
So you're
forget
you're
how.
not moving multiple provinces though. You're stuck in
Yeah.
the cave layer for one
No.
turn. You don't have.
No, you can go 2. You just can't go 3.
Yeah. Well, what it is
No, no,
I
you
think
can't go to red mines,
what
right?
what
Even
you
though
what
you
you
should
gotta
have the
what you
map
have
move.
to do is you have to move. You can move multiple layers in the cave
Oh,
layer
you
to an
mean?
exit. You can't
Oh,
Yeah, you can
go.
move multiple provinces in either one, but
Yeah, you
even if you
can't
have
go.
stealth, you can't do.
I
Like,
see
let's
what
say
you.
I have 100 map move or something because I've ridiculously stacked it or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same with teleporters, but I think even with
It is
teleporters,
no, it's
like,
not the same with teleporters. Well, first of all, you can input province codes with teleporters, which is like,
oh, interesting.
yeah. And then the
I didn't realize.
second thing is you actually
No, I
can.
meant like a unit with the teleport
Oh, I
tag.
don't know. I have no idea. I
Not
have not
really.
used them in this edition.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
hopefully we're not
There's like
misleading people.
there's like 3 in the game, people, so that's why nobody's used them.
I
I
do,
mean, I would like for Ilwinter to kind of fix the cave movement at some point because like everyone
Did you know
essentially
that
moves at the
bats
speed of
report
one.
navigating caves? True story.
Yeah, there's some really stupid stuff like where like
uh,
Zots are only moving one,
Well,
sometimes
hey,
2 provinces.
listen. If you have certain survivals in caves or are like floating and have high map move, try phasing through the walls sometimes because sometimes it's possible.
Don't give Illinger ideas about how to buff Lemuria.
It's
Like,
already in the
are you
game.
kidding me?
Like that's not.
According to Nick
You can
Knight, they're
go
dead.
through the cave
You're
walls or something?
Yeah, no, because on Map Nuke at least, and maybe in the default generator as well, but on Map Nuke, the cave wall areas are like essentially empty province containers. So if you have sufficient map move and the right kinds of movement, you can just phase through the fucking walls like a goddamn ghost.
Oh
And not
yeah,
just as ghosts, you could have like flying guys with the right survival too. It's last time we tested it, maybe that'll get bug fixed, but it's
yeah. I
I
know.
would hope so. That sounds like something that would happen.
The
Yeah, I'm
Maria
pretty
and
sure I've
Gyarados
seen
are kind
empty
of
province containers like that.
yeah. Oh, so I do want. I think that we glossed over this, so I do want to go back to it. But like, Sauron was talking about earthquake. I do think that is a big advantage of cave nations because most cave nations are also Earth nations.
Who
Rip to
doesn't? What
Abyssia, but
Abyssia?
yeah,
Yeah.
but but most cave nations are also Earth nations, and generally, like if you have Earth 2, you can get up to Earthquake. Earthquake is now E4 instead of E3, but Earth
It
boots
was
summon Earth
always
power.
E4, I think.
No, it used to be E3, 3 gems. Maybe that's 2 editions
No, I don't
ago.
think so.
Oh, I'd have to look. But
Not in 5.
is HP Munchcraft washed up? Probably. But I am.
Yeah, it was
Listen,
4.
I will fact check. Just keep on talking.
But
I already checked it. It
point,
was 4. And
point is, yeah, it's 4 now. Four or 3 gems. But the point is, in caves, that has always been more powerful, and now with the guaranteed cave layer, that is a hugely strong defensive option. I have not seen people take advantage of it, but they probably should. So now you, as a cave layer, as a cave nation, you have that option of just absolutely crashing people's armies.
yeah, that's some pretty
Well, it'll
scary
hit your
army
stuff.
from that.
It'll hit your stuff too.
Yes, but
But
here's
if you're set up for it, it's a lot less threatening.
Here's-
Like especially if you have Astral, you can put some like Twist Fate stuff on your
Or-
guys, and you can completely dodge the
or
first
you just
one.
have one guy with the ring of levitation casting it on an army.
I don't think it stops if you can levitate. You still get hit
Oh, okay.
in caves. I'm pretty
Interesting.
sure. Yeah, I don't think that
Oh,
works.
we're-
Otherwise, flyers wouldn't care in caves, and they
we're,
do.
we're about to test it, but but the other thing you're missing is that okay, caves automatically there's darkness, right? Which debuffs your defense skill, which is how you dodge it, right? So a non-cave army going into a cave is always even more vulnerable to earthquake than a cave army is. In general, because they're getting minuses. I mean, we saw that when in Lucid's response to our Nazcavid, where he cast darkness to make his earthquakes more effective on the surface. But
That is true.
in the caves, it's just automatic. You just cast earthquake, and it's going to be big. So, like, that goes from being kind of a niche spell tech or something where it's like you got to use a lot to make it work on the surface map to being something that is a big wipe that is pretty easy to access, especially by a Dominion 6 standards. So I think that once people get their minds around it, that's going to be a big determinant factor of like cave layer warfare is either avoiding earthquake traps or like getting to earthquake trap your opponent. And of course the trade-off there is that cave indies are as a rule harder than surface indies, so if you are in the cave layer, you will probably have a slower expansion than surface layer, than you would on the surface. Indie dependent.
You have to check the guy who's got flying in his tags.
Well,
he got hit.
He got whacked. So.
Are we active
Yep.
testing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got hit. He has levitation and flying, so
Oh,
we know
damn.
for sure.
So, nothing saves you in the cave. You just get fucking
Well, it makes sense. It's coming from the ceiling too.
right.
Yeah.
Casting
It's
earthquake.
literally, I think it's in the description that stuff falls from the ceiling on people, so that's why flying doesn't save you in caves.
God damn. How much damage does it do? Because I noticed it's not documented
Double.
in the fucking
It's-
spell description.
Oh, well,
go
the
click on-
spell is just damaged or
Yeah, you
doubled
can just
in
look
some-
at the roll if you find a dead person. That's 8. That's only 8. I'm surprised it's not higher.
Yeah, that's, I thought it did more damage.
I thought it did extra damage.
18 damage.
8 plus
Yeah, but that's 8
17.
plus 17. It's 8 base.
Yeah, so it
AP.
looks like the 8 damage is base. Okay.
I thought it did more damage in caves. Hold on a second. That might be a bug.
Well, it might be intentional now that caves are all over the fucking map. It might have changed from Good God. We
Well,
are
the
Listen, I already got
inspector-
corrected
hold
once
on,
today.
look
Are
at
you gonna get
inspector.
corrected in a YouTube video?
gamers. We are washed.
Because in the inspector,
Looks pretty
it's saying that
fucking
there's two
murderous.
effects of it, right?
Oh, okay. So there's.
So then the second effect should be doing 20 AP, which is the one that should happen in caves.
Oh.
But I don't know how up to date the inspector is. That might still be a bug though.
Listen,
I don't know. It
If
could
it-
also be a bug of the mod or the map or something. Jesus Christ.
Why would the mod shouldn't be different, right?
Oh, who knows?
Because it's the same spell. Like they even have it on the research level. They didn't change that or anything.
Maybe
well,
it shouldn't
actually,
do
it
20
says,
damage.
We are checking with
it says extra effect in Geo. So check
Yeah,
on
but-
someone who survives the first effect. to
What
see
what
if
is
they
the
get an
actual
additional
terrain of
effect.
this? Is this an actual cave or is this like a cave forest?
Oh no! Please don't tell me they did that.
Cave
Those are
forest.
cave forests. Are they all?
Oh no! Do you have a regular cave?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
got
have a regular
crystal.
cave to check? That's a crystal cave.
Isn't that the same thing?
No.
Nope. Nope, that's like
Check
a cave.
and see if you have a
mountain.
regular.
That's a drip cave.
Cave.
Terrain
That's a
cave.
cave.
Terrain cave. Get it to that one.
Oh, wait, he can move multiple. Hold on. Maybe
Yeah.
I was wrong.
No.
Yeah.
I was having trouble earlier. Maybe that's changed then.
God, who knows?
All right,
This
let's
is-
see.
This is gonna have to be cut badly. This is the worst fucking recording we've ever recorded.
Check the damage.
Looks like it's doing piss.
No, that's the same amount. Yeah, that seems bugged. Unless
Maybe
they
for the
changed the
best.
spell.
Maybe.
Unless they change
Well,
the
it's
spell, it
killing
seems
a lot
bugged.
of the cavemen, so like.
It's got a stun on it now too. They won though. Caveman open. They beat him up.
That's
Cracked his head
weird.
open.
So it's just either
Just
bugged or
does
changed.
less damage. Yeah. Either that's intentional or it's not. We're gonna go bug report it until they tell us that we're stupid.
I mean, who knows at this point?
Wait, did you cut the recording or is this
I
in
didn't
the
cut.
recording?
I didn't cut
She
shit.
didn't
buddy.
cut it.
This is
Yeah,
Oh,
he's gonna
fucking
fix it
video.
in editing, of course. It's HP.
I'm gonna
Surely
have to-
he'll fix it in editing, and it
I'm
won't
gonna
take 3
fucking
weeks.
have to cut that and edit. I'm gonna
Oh.
stop it here and then we'll pick up after.